one bit of housekeeping I'll share is that following that excellent presentation on photography and crowdsourcing, so really fascinating model there. I noticed a lot of you are taking pictures of individual slides and things like that. Well, I'm going to save you a little bit of work. If you go, even right now while I'm talking, if you want to like take a nap the next 20 minutes, to bit.ly/crowdads, so bit.ly, the URL shortener /crowdads, you'll have actually not just this presentation, but some stuff that I had to cut out of this, so I wouldn't go the full, go like an hour or two. And so you can have those slides, and they're annotated, and there are links in the notes field. And so at bit.ly/crowdads, you can have all of this and more. I even tweeted it using our hashtag. I'm trying to tap into a lot of these best practices that I preach. So I've been part of crowdsourcing a long time. My parents were even crowdsourcing my name way back when, and it was great that they were real pioneers of this whole space. We used to crowdsource family vacation destinations, and still always wound up going to Atlantic City to visit grandma, which wasn't so bad, but I guess my older brother had enough by that point. But then, and even today, I've used different kinds of applications. Like, have you ever seen Go Try It On? It is a fantastic application. I have nothing to do with the company. I just really love what they're doing. And so, especially for like teen and 20-something girls, I mean, you have some guys using it. I don't want to discriminate, but I actually went on there to get some votes on which shirt I should wear. Clearly, I didn't use it today because, and I got actually a lot of responses coming. Like when I did this, within minutes, I had a few dozen responses, and everyone had a pretty strong opinion about it. And then my wife is like, why are these 15-year-old girls talking to you? So little bit of a challenge that happens when you try to really embrace digital media. So getting into the meat of the talk, I've been at this agency 7+ years now, been in the digital marketing space for, getting close to 15. And so there are a lot of different things marketers and advertisers can crowdsource. I mean, this is just a partial list, so don't want to even imply this is comprehensive, but some of the things that came to mind. There are 3 areas in particular that we'll wind up focusing on today, because again, I wasn't invited to be the only presenter that you'll have today. I think there are a few other good ones coming up. I mean, ultimately, a lot of what's going to make crowdsourcing work, both for marketers and consumers, is really what is that value exchange. And this is something that I think marketers that are really good at social media, beyond those who've just been good at building brands and advertising and all that, they've really gotten this, because there is this thing where you can't just talk at people and you have to invite people in. Crowdsourcing is all about inviting people in and giving people a stake in the brand or the product or perhaps the promotion. So it's really about looking at those things that, I mean, what do marketers want to get out of it? Buzz is not a bad thing to get. I mean, so there could be something more like those so-called softer metrics like engagement, or it could be hard sales, or you want to turn consumers into advocates. And then you think about what consumers really get out of it, because like your rewards are great. They could get products out of it. They could get $50,000 and wind up very, very happy. Some of it's also just that kind of recognition and esteem and social currency, and that like just making people feel good and giving them something that they want to share with others. This is great, and so you don't even always have to give tangible stuff away to do this stuff well. So we'll look at the 3 areas I mentioned: advertising, the campaign direction, and product development. And so again, we'll look at these really quickly. It's the longer version online, and happy to just have this as a start of a conversation. So advertising, so marketers can get actual ads out of this thing, can get a lot of other content that they can use in various other forms. And some of it can just gauge interest, like what are people really responding to this? Is this making them really passionate. Do people want to participate in this? And consumers can, as we just saw in the previous talk, like they can get some fame and fortune out of it. They can get some great work. There are some things that are targeting much more the amateur community, where it can be great to just have like, hey, look, I did this spec work for a brand, but it was part of a real promotion they were running, and now they can use this maybe to even help them get their next job, especially if they're not deep in that field already. And some of it can just be like the brand saying, you know what, we like your stuff, and that can be a huge boost for people. So the examples I'll focus on today for this part of it are from the Super Bowl. These aren't examples that I've worked on in particular, just some that I think are really interesting. And the Super Bowl, it gets a lot of attention just because for the US it is our most watched sporting event. It's no World Cup or anything, but it's all right. And you just get advertisers that are more willing to experiment then than any time of year. And even USA Today this year was saying, call it the Crowdsourcing Bowl. I mean, this is coming up. It kind of comes in and out. You see some things that some years it's a bigger deal than others. But Doritos has been the biggest, most long-standing advocate for it. They've got their whole Crash the Super Bowl promo. This year it was actually, they do little twists on it every year. This year they actually based it entirely on Facebook. So if you went to their microsite for it, it just took you to their Facebook page, and you can vote for finalists. And then they actually did a pretty good job. I mean, some years their ads have ranked even higher, and they give a kind of extra bonus if you make it like the top one ad, or you get into the top few. USA Today has their famous ad meter that really focuses on it. But I mean, you see that a couple of their ads did very well just based on the consumer response to them. So it's a great example of them soliciting a lot of participation and getting at least what most tend to think is a fairly strong quality of the product out of it. Lincoln had a kind of interesting experiment this year where they called it Steer the Script. And so they solicited a lot of ideas, and it was so this whole thing was going to be based on people just sharing their stories and tweeting them. And Jimmy Fallon, the talk show host, he kicked it off. And so it was this whole really fun promo. They got some kind of odd content out of it, like the alpacalypse, so just a herd of alpacas that were going and getting in some people's way, things like that. So they rented some alpacas to shoot this, but then they ended up doing this to shoot a spot in a pretty traditional way. Like they had a script and they shot it themselves. And there is that challenge that when you're pulling all this together, you still, it doesn't necessarily mean you get great content out of it, or that in this case, there is a challenge of actually executing on it. Like what are you going to do with everything that you get? Like you could go and run a contest and get one of the world's greatest photographs out there, and it could be something worthy of Ansel Adams, but then if you just don't do anything really good with it, or you like have just an idiotic tagline that you put on the bottom of it, the ad itself could totally fall flat. So you still actually have to execute. And in this case, it just, I mean, I'll admit I was kind of scratching my head during this one, and it didn't seem to go over that well with viewers. And campaign direction. I'll use a couple examples my agency has actually worked on for this one from Oreo and one from Oscar Mayer. It's funny because just as I was catching up on email, I was seeing that we've got something launching right now for Ben & Jerry's in the States where people are even crowdsourcing their ice cream flavors. And so it's great to see this being something even more a part of what my agency is doing. And a lot of what marketers get out of it is that input from consumers. They could get a lot of real-time insights, really valuable, and you get a lot of earned media if it's something, it's a big, big if, that people are interested in and want to share. And so it could be a huge push beyond any of that kind of paid media spending or spending or promoting it from channels that the marketers own. So consumers can get a lot out of participating with these brands like Social Currency. Again, I won't read through all these. You have the slides available to you. Oreo has been a fascinating client to work with over the years. So they've and they did this program in 2012, the Oreo Daily Twist. And so taking a step back here, so the Oreo Daily Twist ultimately culminated in a crowdsourcing program. I'll just take a step back. What they've done is for 100 days, they were coming up with this culturally relevant content. And while, this was coming heavily out of the US, Oreo is it's the world's best-selling cookie. So it's something I appreciate the more I travel around the world, and can always get a pack of Oreos wherever I go, which is a little dangerous when I'm going into 7-Elevens in every country. But so you can see you've got they called the horse dance. Clearly there's some copyright issues in doing this. So some just iconic moments here. So Gangnam Style was getting huge. They did an ad that doesn't even have to say Gangnam Style or the rapper's name, Psy, to go and use that. And you had some things that were literal translations. You had some things like, oh, is that Merlion right here? It's funny because when I put the slide together, I did not know Merlion's name. So this is also, I'm feeling more culturally relevant just watching my own presentation. This is like a real-time understanding right here. It's like a Zen moment. I'm so excited now because I even literally, I got a little Merlion statue for my desk back home. Digression, sorry. So the last day of it, it was really about getting those submissions in, and so we crowdsourced it, had these 3 ideas from fans that came up, and then people could vote on the final 3. This was kind of nuts here. Times Square, right? So the biggest advertising mecca of the world, and big ads all over the place, and we actually had a booth there that said there was an advertising campaign in progress. The amazing thing to me is that anyone would care about that. It's a nice feel-good for the profession that day. And then on the billboard up there, you see the 3 different versions. So, the image quality is so-so, but you've got like this high five, a Twilight Zone thing for those sci-fi fans. So you've got a few of these different options up there that people can vote on. High five wound up winning. And I was voting for the Twilight Zone one myself, so you do run the risk of disappointing some of your consumers when you crowdsource. I was like, why, Oreo? Why didn't Twilight Zone 1 was so cool? But yes, of course, I voted. And they did a pretty good job just getting people involved in this on the last day of the campaign. Another favorite program that we worked on was Oscar Mayer, so bacon brand. And so they saw bacon was really like liquid gold here. And so we did this program, the Great American Bacon Barter. Sent a guy going across the country, 3,000 miles with nothing. Sorry, I don't know in kilometers. I'm really bad at conversions here. But we sent him across the country with nothing, no cash, no credit cards, just 3,000 bricks of bacon. And so he bartered them. Like some guy got a bacon tattoo. So he gave him 200 bricks of bacon. Where he went, we really didn't know. And so we didn't know in advance. We just put this out largely based on Twitter, had some YouTube content fueling it. And so he gave away nearly 2,200 packs of bacon. And there were 43,000 offers that came in. So this is also something that you don't always know going into it if this is going to work. And to me, that was really huge beyond the impressions and buzz and all this stuff. Like that people actually were tweeting constantly. This isn't something that just a few people in my agency could tweet out. Like this was actually catching on. And people really wanted him to crash on their couch or show them how they can eat fire, which was one of the real ones. The videos at baconbarter.com, if you go there, they're pretty funny. And I even loved his T-shirt there. that he had for the trip. So just ultimately, I want to close with one other area, not something that I've worked on, just an area that I admire, the product field. And so marketers can get some great feedback early on. And I love the idea that they can actually have a whole story arc based on it. So if they do this well, it's something that could play out for weeks or months, even a year, where you show how people are getting involved in it and coming together and making something happen. Showing one of my favorite beers from the States, Sam Adams. So what was great was their blogger was talking about this, and he just hit that out of the park right there. Like, just that, what's the potential value of crowdsourcing and bringing people into it? You helped craft a Sam Adams beer, right? So if they're successful, that's like, you did that in some way, and it's huge if they can really be successful. And because then if you did that, you're going to want to tell your friends, you're probably going to want to buy it, and so you're definitely going to feel better about the brand. They had this great program, the Crowdcraft Project, and so it was weighing in different attributes of it. I actually learned more about making beer from participating in this project, and which was great. And then this was brilliant too, just like really going not just crowdsourcing, but open source. They actually made the recipe available to everyone. And so you can see, again, in the links at bit.ly/crowdads, you can you can see the link to it. And there's the full recipe. Like if you happen to have a semi-professional brewing operation going on in your basement, then you can go and buy everything you need, and I won't begin to get into that here. So ultimately, just because you're doing crowdsourcing and marketing and advertising doesn't mean it's always just going to work magically. You can have a hit ad. It could totally fall flat, as we saw in this case with LinkedIn. You could get a lot of that constant viral engagement, or maybe no one will care, and you can't always predict that at the outset. You could have a really successful product come out of it, or maybe no one buys it. So there are a lot of risks involved, but there's some great potential you could get out of it. I welcome staying in touch. I don't know if we have